everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, or welcome back if this is your fourth Tom Swift episode review. Well, I am not usually wearing my normal style. Well, I'm wearing the blazer, but I'm not wearing black shirt because I'm about to go away on a trip. So all my good clothes are packed away, which include every single one of my non-red shirts. So I'm a little bit running on a very limited wardrobe option. Let's say that. But however, this week on Tom Swift, just to get to it. Also, I apologize if I do zone out at any point of this episode. Kind of like Tom's brother for a little bit, because, well, the thing is that I'm being honest with you, as I always am with these reviews. I like sharing a little bit of my private life in these reviews for some weird reason. I have done a 4-day social activity boost because it's Father's Day weekend. I had some other things to attend to, some friend stuffs. I'm running on fumes. I had drinking 4 cups of tea right now with some sugar to kind of keep me going. I will crash after this episode gets posted, but I'm leaving on vacation in a couple of days. Also, by the way, I'm just letting you know this will not affect anything with our What's in the Tube schedule. We will still have our proceedings with next week and this week, totally fine. So no interruptions there. This is why I plan everything ahead of schedule. But with that being said, speaking of not going as scheduled, this week on Tom Swift, this felt like, how do I say this? Like, the thing with television is that you always get to those episodes where you start to feel that this was not a bottle episode, but I could definitely feel there were like constraints with, some of the, like, it worked to his advantage. I like it when at the end of the day, the episode kind of still helped out the story and the characters enough and kept things progressing. But at the same time, I did notice that there was a little bit of like, well, I could feel that the budget or just the limited cast appearances we got here was it was necessary to tell this story. And I feel at the end of the day, it served its purpose, and we did get some sort of progression. This did continue back on the main quest of trying to find Tom's dad with the satellite pieces, but it kind of felt like more like it's weird because like we're only 4 episodes in. It doesn't have to feel like a set episode, but for me it kind of did a little bit at times. Like, I know like we're not at that point where like we don't have the 22 episode order or something. We're like, okay, we can afford some side steps. We don't have that, but so it kind of felt like it at times, just for the sake of maybe it's just not. I think the last 2-3 episodes with the big set pieces and such kind of gave it more of like a lavish side, where we're kind of like regressing to like we're using the existing sets, we're using some outdoor shots, very apparent green screen. Let me tell you that much. I mean, that end shot, oof. Well, not the end shot, like the end shot before the end shot was like, oof. That was that wasn't quite, well, you know what, I'm not going to be criticizing anymore. Let's just go for the butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Tom Swift. So we begin, we're on the plane, we're not the plane, the jet, we're on the next location, all the way in a farmland. Well, it doesn't look like farmland, it looks like freaking forest. I mean, I never been to a ranch. I was in Texas, though, and I'd never been to a ranch. Then again, that was because COVID was still raging by then. But anywho, they found the next major piece of the satellite. Tom scrolling through non-safe for work pics of, like, I guess the guy who was banging last week. I don't know why. Like, my brain is confusing me a little bit. Plus, again, my brain is not 100% right now. I think he's just getting some elusive shots of the partner, like saying, "I miss you. Can't wait till you come back so we can resume what we've been doing." I mean, again, Jesus, last week was like, oh my God, that was like going a little bit too far. Like, in terms of like, I've never seen this far on like, CW network. I've seen some really far things, but not to that extreme. But so there's all hands on deck. They're really focusing down on just, we're gonna get this solved, we're gonna get this done, and it's gonna be an easy in and out. We're just gonna pop right in, pop right out. It's an easy open and shut thing. So they land, and they're about maybe like a few miles away from the location. And Zazzy gets a call from the congressman that he's interested in a date with her. He got a free availability in his schedule before he flies out to his next destination, and he wants to have dinner with her. So at first it's like, let's go have some steak. Let's have a nice, oh my God, I had an amazing steak last night when I'm recording this. It was amazing. It was like, oh my God, so beautiful. It would have been great for a protein day today, but I'm like, I am so tired. I need to sleep. So I'll do it tomorrow. Well, today, as of this recording, today as of this scheduled airing date. But Yeah, Zazie uses this as a clue to uses as a guise to like get in close with the congressman, try to see what else she can know about him, about the road back, and see if there's any sort of information they can use against them. So Isaac volunteers to kind of head back with her on the jet so that they can go kind of plant some sort of trap for him. At first, I was like, "Are you sure this is the right move?" And for me, I'm like, "Are we already splitting up the team already? Like, you know, this is only like the fourth episode. Are we already splitting up the squad?" I mean, seriously, like I think the Drew crew took like a while before they actually finally did. I think it was still season 2. Like I think every episode in season 1 had them together. I have to double check. We're doing a rewatch of Nancy Drew, I think, before season 4 next year. So I'll double check my facts there. It's been a while. Okay, it's been a while. So pardon me on that. So they both head off. So it's just Tom and his brother, who also stowed away on the jet because, well, Tom's mom isn't in this week's episode, and I guess instead of just writing him off, and after last week's, questioning of like what is up with him, like does he have like some sort of mental abilities, or maybe is he cybernetic? We don't really know. So I think it's apparent for him to like be involved here and kind of get some one-on-one time with Tom, since he didn't really get much of that last week because Tom was kind of under a time crunch to rescue Barkley. So those two team ups, so we're kind of into two separate plot lines for the first time in the show, which I'm like, damn, it took them that long. So we head back over to the Swift Manor. Isaac is getting Z ready with some spy gear, some listening tracking device, some spy gear. I'm gonna call. I don't want to get into the finicky stuff already, to be honest with you. So he's putting that on her, and he's just letting her know, like, if anything goes wrong, just page me. I will be right there to pull you out of it if anything does happen. But while he's doing that, he's having a little bit of some flashbacks to the last time he's kind of did something of the sort to someone else, which was a unknown partner. And I know at some point he just randomly mentions, yeah, I had a girlfriend, but we broke up, and I forgot what the context of that was in terms of like how he brought up, but it will come back to play later. So he's having flashbacks to her. And initially I thought that it was him when he was a her. I was thinking for a moment. And I thought this was like the event that kind of like, I really don't know. Like again, this was a weird way to do the flashbacks. Like this was like, it wasn't like a total, like we were doing a flashback plotline sort of thing. We were just getting key moments to understand Isaac's story, which is different. It doesn't have that same effect in my opinion, but it does get the point across pretty quickly. So you can keep the suspense going with the other plot lines. So Zazie welcomes the congressman with an entourage, mostly his bodyguard. Sans the main bodyguard, who's away this week. Ironically, is just again, don't be surprised. I mentioned like, yeah, all the, like some of the characters are just not here this week, so it's apparent. So there you go. Oh, right away, Isaac's already detecting that, yeah, the congressman is off. He's playing some sort of game. Maybe we should just cancel the whole thing and back out and just rejoin back with Tom. We'll make it there in time to regroup. Zazie doesn't listen to him. She proceeds, and after she leads the congressman to the dining room, she takes off one of the spy gears that allows Isaac to listen in on the whole conversation. So Isaac's pretty pissed off, but there's really nothing much he can do right now. So Zazie and the congressman have their dinner. Zazie's finding it kind of weird that he's making a lot of like connections to her upbringing and her culture when these two are completely different as they. But again, like sometimes it's just a lesson of you never really judge a book by its cover. Like you really don't know a person until you actually get to know them. Like just because you see a person, that means like, oh, this is what they are. But then when you get to talk to them and really get to know them, it's like a really different deal. It seems like a simple lesson, a simple plot device, but it does really help out a little bit in terms of the impact with this character. So they move it along. Isaac's trying to hack in with a secondary listening device, but it's only when Zazie's close enough to a hotspot with the radio waves. They head over to the fireplace, which I'm like, are they gonna have sex? Like, I mean, it's not really gonna is really gonna get information out of someone with sex. I mean, I really hope she didn't, and she didn't. He was trying to seduce her with the power of a peach cobbler with a lactanin crust, which you don't know what that is. I don't entirely remember what it was. I think it's the cross section where like you take a string of the dough and then you cross it over with something that kind of create a little bit of a pattern. I think that's what it is. I don't know. I haven't made pies in forever, so I could be wrong with that. Don't quote me on that. Go watch Binging with Babish. They're probably way better than me on that front. The more Zazie's getting to talk to him, he's like, she's like, even like, of course, like she's got to divide between he's the villain as well as I kind of like him. They kind of have a good vibe going. It's not 100% perfect, but they got a little bit of a vibe going. But she's not buying the whole thing. She's like saying something's up. Like you're really going too far with this, like with the sellout. So before they get the kiss, she backs out to use the bathroom to kind of like touch herself up. She heads back over to the dining room where she's looking for his satchel, and coincidentally, what he said when they were talking, I'm like, oh, I read this book growing up, which is kind of like something that generally, I will say this in terms of like, not what the show said, but like in my way of saying, it's like, it's definitely something that you would be a little bit surprised that he would read. And of course, Ozzy has the same reaction where like, I don't believe you read this. And it's in there, like the book is there. Don't get me wrong, but when she opens it up to the bookmark page, just to read just to see what he was last reading up to, she finds a slip of paper with a bunch of initials and coordinates, and that was kind of weird for her. So she takes pictures of it, but sadly the bodyguard catches her in the act, and her cover almost gets blown. Everyone else gets called back into the dining room. Isaac eventually finally takes notice that, yeah, she's in trouble. He's trying to figure out what the hell he's going to do. He's having more flashbacks to the whole back when he was in the army. We see the woman that he was with, his girlfriend at the time, die in his arms. It's assumed that she was pregnant because she was having a lot of like motions to her belly. So I'm not sure if that was entirely confirmed or not, but well, it is what it is. Maybe we'll find more about that out someday. Eventually, Isaac knocks back into sense. Zazzie's trying her best to kind of buy some time from the congressman and his bodyguards, and eventually Isaac knocks out the electrical grid, so allowing Zazzie to come up with the excuse that, oh yeah, Tom's experiments, they kind of run on autopilot when he's not around, so sometimes they knock out the main power grid, so she decides to lead them out the door, and thankfully it's enough of an excuse to kind of calm down the congressman enough to like say, okay, I get your point. Maybe we can go on a second date later on, and I was like, maybe, we never know. So we just leave it there. So they leave each other. It's all done. We'll come back to these two in a moment as we cut back over to the ranch, where they talk to the ranch holder, who's at first a very nice, sweet dude. He's offering them some drinks and, just kind of comforting them up. Like, I thought for first, like, this was a relative of Tom for some reason. I don't know why. I just felt like the comfortability of this is like, oh, you just stepped into the ranch at the wrong time, boy, or something like that. It's just a ranch that kind of fallen on hard times because there's a lot of competition around and they haven't really been very successful of trying to keep everything afloat. And they recently came across like a quote-unquote gold mine, so to speak. But, they don't really mention it specifically since Tom's asking questions about the satellite piece and whatsoever. So thankfully, Tom's brother catches on some cues that the ranch head was saying. So once they were able to like get out the door and like head out, they head over to the spot that he was kind of like mainly like kind of like booking them away from. Like, hey, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. You're totally fine here. They get there and they find the satellite, the piece of the satellite crashed into the base of the tree, which is creating this kind of like very special sap, which I guess is this money source he's talking about. So again, Tom's like, this is done. Let's just get this piece and get the hell out. They don't even get like 5 seconds into trying to get in there where the ranch head and all his hands come out and like they're like, in the crudest way, trying to imply to them, like, yeah, we're going to fuck you up if you try to take anything. So you just have him holding his, like, electric zapper, which I guess you use to cows or animals to kind of get them back in line. Some random rusty chains and just, like, 3 tall dudes. That's basically it. That's his team. But Tom knows when he's outmatched, he can't take out all 5 of them at once, especially with his brother over there. So they agree to come back, to leave and never come back. And, of course, Tom's a little bit miffed that, maybe had like things been a little differently and wouldn't have led to this choice. Obviously, it's still a little bit of the disagreement between these two. Like, just something's not aligning here. Even gets to the point where his brother calls him, dad, because he was acting like their dad. And Tom is a little bit appalled by it, but he kind of shakes it off and kind of moves on. They head over to like, I guess whatever big storage unit Swift ironically has in this location, because he has cars there. He has parts there, so I will say this: he is very ingenuous to try and come up with these like elaborate devices with like very rudimentary parts. Reminds me of Tony Stark in a little bit. So Tom begins another building montage. He uses the specs from another previous invention to kind of modify it in order to create kind of like a knockout laser. Well, not really laser, more like a vibration noise to have them get knocked out for a period of time. So he does so. He knocks out his brother, who's kind of a little bit miffed at him and keeps his headphones at bay. He knocks him out. It works. So they head back over to the ranch. Him in full cowboy gear. I should have wore my Walker clothes today, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna overcomplicate things by putting on a hat. I'm not gonna overcomplicate a thing. So they head over back to the tree sap, which is now guarded by 3 of the dudes. Tom, for some reason, gives the gun to his brother, so he knocks them out. Tom goes in to get the satellite piece. While he's closing in, I'm trying to remember his brother's name. By next week, I should know. He notices 2 other hands coming their way, so the knockout sound machine, I forgot the name of it, I'm sorry, malfunctions. It isn't working, so I was like, oh crap, here we go again. They're screwed again. No, Tom gets the satellite piece out, but when he returns to regroup back with his brother, he finds the cannon basically destroyed, him nowhere to be found, and, you know, just realize where the hell is he. So he calls for backup. That's where we're intersecting with, as you can see, back over at the manor. So they're on their way back on the jet. Isaac gets a little bit into Z's face of like, you know, this was a risk. Like, why did you do this? Like, you know, this piece of paper with names at the surface does not feel like something you almost risk your entire life over, which honestly, he has a point, but at the end of the day, sometimes you have to do those risky things to save the world or save people. So he isn't wrong. But thankfully, they land just in time for Tom to come in and kind of like, you know, get shit straight. Like, look, we gotta rescue him. We gotta rescue my brother. You know, let's just, whatever problems you guys have, let's just put them aside. Let's go save him. So they head back over to his house. He's demanding the satellite piece back for him, which Tom easily agrees to because, you know, he just wants to protect his family. So he gives him the piece. He hands over his brother, and then they all head back to the jet. Initially, he's once again eating into his brother, like, why did you do this? Like, this was a really bad call. They're having an argument about how, like, you know, like, you haven't been there lately for me, you know, like, just with your attention span and everything, we haven't really been able to get a chance to talk, which I do get his point, but at the end of the day, Tom was trying to save an AI that he cares mostly about, trying to get his father back, trying to get his company in good standing. So, like, it's a lot for Tom to handle. Like, I do get the moment of, like, yeah, you need someone, but at the end of the day, you have to understand that they are just not in the right time, place to talk to you. So give it a little bit. Like, I get, like, at the moment, but, like, there will be a moment later on where there is some availability. So don't fret there. Where do we go from there? Yeah, so they had up to a heated point where, like, you know, it's like, you didn't have to give up the piece for me. You could have just left and gone away. But he's like, I didn't give up the piece for you. I had a portable 3D printer in the jet, ironically. So sorry about that. It printed out a replica of the piece with obviously none of the radiation effects in it. So yeah, so Tom didn't really give up anything for you, which I'm like, yes, I get the point that, yeah, Tom has to get his dad back, but at the same time, his brother's like, oh, so you weren't going to risk up Dad for me, which I kind of get where he's coming from. I kind of do, but at the same time, I'm like, well, thankfully 3D printers are a thing, so we can have the solution to this argument. So they're back on the plane. It's very tense. Everyone's not talking to each other. Isaac breaks the ice by talking to Tom about, you know, his attitude lately towards him, and, you know, at first Tom's like, you know, it's like he's putting at risk everything, you know, Dad needs my help, and, you know, he's putting in risk of everything. But Isaac's like, yeah, but your reaction is the same as that, and you said before you didn't want to be like him, and you're being the exact same way to him. Tom realizes his mistake finally and starts to, like, slowly figure out that, yeah, he made a big fool of himself, that he should have been more open, been more conversational to him. So he goes up to him and apologizes and explains that, you know, he's just been caught up in the mission, and, you know, he hasn't really had a time to really think ahead of, like, you know, how he's talking and how he's reacting. Because, again, for him, priority one is to get his dad back no matter what it takes. So he kind of lost sight of, like, exactly how you should talk to a certain people. So, because not everyone speaks differently. They understand. Tom goes back to last week's episode of, like, why'd you quit the fencing team? You know, we didn't get a chance to talk about that. And he's like, yeah, everyone called me a cheater. Like, you know, everyone didn't really think I was capable to, like, kick all their asses. And Tom says his best. It's like, you know, like, it doesn't matter what sport, what racial background a sport generally gets dominated by. It doesn't matter. Like, it's your skill that matters, you know. And just because people are, like, criticizing you for it doesn't mean you you have something wrong with you. It's just that they're scared of you. So don't worry about that. You shouldn't quit something you love just for the sake of making other people happy. You really shouldn't. So they'll get to more of that about that maybe probably later. So once Tom realizes that, like, yeah, like he does have a different way of seeing things, and he does kind of feel bad that they kind of left them high and dry. I had the perfect example from another TV show where, like, yeah, the good guys kind of technically got away, saved the day, and got what they needed, but like they came back to still fix things and still which again was new because I don't really remember much where, like, yeah, the technically the thread of the week was dealt with, but they kind of just got the shitty resolution, and the good guys got the good resolution. So Tom came back and agrees that, yeah, it was kind of wrong of me to give you a fake piece and kind of leave you high and dry with literally no source of income. So what Tom decided to do in a freaking jet of all places is he replicated the radiation signal and the structure of it into these, like, kind of like power pads, I guess he called them, so that all they have to do is just put it next to a sap and put it next to a tree root with the sap in it, and it will create more of the sap that's making them rich. And all they got to do is, like, look, just take my endorsement, take my money, you will form a spa, you will have these power packs with the saplings available for sale so everyone can use it. And yeah, there you go. So, like, that's your way of earning your income. So your ranch stays active, and he's very happy. And again, like, not too long ago, like less than earlier that day, they were literally threatening them. So I'm like, okay, I guess if you threaten someone, you get what you want. Which I know where they're coming from. I get what the sense of their reaction was. But at the end of the day, like, you held them hostage. You were basically threatening, like, we will kick your ass if you try to take that satellite piece earlier. So I'm like, okay, you're rewarding them for bad behavior, kind of. Not 100%, but, like, I felt a little bit kind of divided with that. I felt a little bit divided. In my opinion, I'm still trying to remember what the freaking example was, but I can't remember for the life of me. I really can't. So, Tom and his brother feel like, so proud of themselves. Like, we helped the struggling business owner. Now we can go back on our rich planes and enjoy our rich lives. But no, seriously, Isaac and Z are in the car. They're just having a conversation. Isaac's apologizing for his reaction. That the real reason why he was a little bit reactive because he didn't want to repeat certain mistakes that the last time he was in that position was with his girlfriend, and she died because he wasn't there in time to save her, and he would have felt extremely destroyed had he not been able to save Zazie at any point, which, again, she knew what she was signing up for, but it's just Isaac's sense of responsibility. Like, I care about you a lot, that if I can't protect you, if you get hurt when there was a chance for me to be able to help you, then I would not be able to live with myself. And I completely understand it too. Like, I do that all the time with my friends and the people I love. So I totally get that. I really do. Like, at the end of the day, it is your choice. But if there was a point where, like, yeah, I could have saved you and I could have been able to help you, I would have get that. I understand that completely. So, and I did like the way the actor sells the performance. I really did like it. Just like, it's not too dramatic, but it's not too fake. It's kind of like the nice sweet spot over there. So they regroup at the jet. They're heading back home, and then they're going to start still searching for the remaining satellite pieces. So Zazie's still trying to cross-reference all the names and all the initials, all the coordinates. The only connection is that BS is crossed out, which I'm like, does that mean it was bullshit? But no, it turns out to be Tom's dad's real, like, his main initials. And then the next two initials on the list would correspond to other big inventors, big scientists that were about to achieve major breakthroughs or were working on something of a breakthrough, and then they either died or they're just in critical condition. So this is a hit list. So they initially thought the road bag was just trying to, like, destroy any invention that would cause humanity to kind of move ahead even further. But it isn't. It's actually just a hit list of all the inventors and potential people that could make devices and these modern breakthroughs, similar to how Winter Soldier's Hydra's list for the helicarriers were to, like, eliminate them all. So honestly, that really is smart thinking. There really is. So so now they're, like, wondering, like, there's just a lot for them to. Also, yeah, I forgot. Isaac and Tom's brother have a little bit of a side conversation about when Tom's brother was approaching the individuals, it was just a natural sense. It wasn't because he got lucky to see them. It was just he had a sense something was behind him, and he did. Which again could just mean natural things. I mean, but again, the whole like weird blue line vision thing indicates for me like either he has some sort of mental powers or something else is up with him. So they're gonna go look for his mom and try to get some sort of answers for his ailment, let's call it. So there's a lot going on now. Tom's still got to find his dad with the other satellite pieces. The road back to killing people, and we need to find what the hell's going on with Tom's brother. A lot to do, a lot to go on. Is it possible for 6 episodes to wrap it up? I really don't know. I'm starting to question things. But again, you can accomplish a lot in 6 hours of television. So we will see how it goes, and we'll come back next week and figure it out. Because that was this week's episode of Tom Swift. So again, this was a great episode. I think I was going into this episode of like thinking like at the beginning portion, I'm probably gonna like this the least. And I can get why, again, like, you can kind of hear my throat, like, yeah, there were some moments where, like, I kind of felt like it wasn't up to snuff a little bit, kind of felt a little generic at times. I think it was mostly the ending scenes that kind of, like, sold the entire episode for me. It's, like, the resolution, just the characters, and just how much more of them we know, how much more of their mindset they're thinking of. You get to see a little bit of growth here. And more development, which I really do like. Again, if the story doesn't perform top of the team, which again, rewarding people who are basically threatening you, regardless of their financial strain. I don't agree with that 100%, but I do get it. But overall, like, I think this was just a great episode of Tom Swift, and yeah, I can't wait for more. So I'm gonna give this episode 2 thumbs up. I enjoyed it as always. So let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this week's episode of Tom Swift? Let's start the conversation out there. But I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX. We're reviewing every episode in the first season, hopefully, of Tom Swift. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two besides our Tom Swift episode reviews, we're currently doing Walker reviews each and every week after brand new episodes on the CW. So go check them out there. If you only care about Tom Swift, you're in luck. We'll be back next week with another episode reviews, trucking along, halfway mark next week. Let's see how it does. But again, if you are aware, this has been ActionX, providing you with What's in the Tube. Please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionX videos. Ring that bell for notification when our next episode reviews live. Please also like, favorite, share this episode if you want to. And please also follow us on social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates we may have for our channels. But until next week, until I see you all again, all you Swifters or the Swift Squad, I'll see you all next week for that next episode review. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.